In the ancient village of Achina, nestled deep within the lush forests of Igboland, there lived a young man named Obiora. He was the son of the village drummer, Numdi, who was known throughout the land for his ability to make the sacred drums speak in ways that could move both gods and men. These were not ordinary drums. They were sacred instruments, passed down through generations of drummers in their family line. Obiora grew up watching his father tend to the drums with great care, rubbing them with special oils and keeping them warm near the fire during the cold Harmattan season. The most special of all was the ancient drum called Igwe Oma, carved from a tree that was said to have been struck by lightning 7 times without falling. This drum, according to the village elders, contained the spirits of all previous drummers who had played it. But Obiora had a problem. Try as he might, he could not play the drums like his father. His hands seemed clumsy on the taut animal skin, and the sounds he produced made the village children laugh. This worried both Obiora and his father greatly, as tradition demanded that the sacred drums must pass from father to son, and Namdi was getting old. In the same village lived Olayinka, a beautiful young woman who was the daughter of the village herbalist Babajide. Unlike many others, Olayinka never laughed at Obiora's failed attempts at drumming. Instead, she would sit quietly under the udala tree, watching him practice with kind eyes. Sometimes she would bring him cold water from the stream when he had practiced until his hands were sore. One day, as Obiora sat alone by the village stream, feeling defeated after another failed practice session, he met an old woman named Adana. Her back was bent with age, and her eyes were clouded, but her voice carried the weight of wisdom. She was trying to cross the stream with a heavy load of firewood on her head. Without hesitation, Obiora helped her across and carried her firewood to her compound. The old woman thanked him and asked why such a kind young man looked so troubled. When Obiora explained his inability to master the drums, Adana smiled mysteriously. "The drums speak not through the hands alone," she said, "but through the heart. Your father plays well because he knows the language of the spirits. But you, my son, must find your own way to speak with them." That night, Obiora couldn't sleep. He thought about Adana's words and decided to do something no one in his family had ever done before. Instead of practicing during the day, like everyone else, he would go to the sacred grove at midnight to play the drums. His mother, Kioma, warned him against this plan. "The sacred grove at night belongs to the spirits," she said. "It is not a place for the living." But Obiora's mind was made up. On the night of the new moon, when darkness was complete, Obiora sneaked out with a small drum. The sacred grove was different at night. The trees seemed to whisper, and shadows dance even without light. As he sat down on a smooth stone, his heart pounding louder than any drum, he began to play. At first, nothing was different. His playing was still awkward and disjointed. But then something strange happened. The forest began to respond. A night bird called in rhythm with his beats. Leaves rustled in harmony, and slowly, without him realizing it, his hands began to move differently. For 7 nights, Obiora returned to the grove. Each night, the forest taught him new rhythms. The wind showed him how to make the drum whisper. The rain taught him how to make it sing. The thunder showed him how to make it roar. But on the 8th night, everything changed. As Obiora played in the grove, a terrible storm began to gather. The village diviner, Babatunde, had warned about this storm. It was not a natural one. but a manifestation of angry spirits who demanded sacrifice. The storm raged with such fury that trees as old as time were uprooted. The village was in chaos. Children cried, women gathered their belongings, and men tried desperately to secure their homes. The elders gathered in the chief's compound, preparing the required sacrifices, but nothing seemed to calm the storm. In the midst of this chaos, Olayinka ran to Obiora's compound. "The spirits are angry," she said, "and only the sacred drums can calm them. Your father is too sick with fever to play. You must do it." Obiora's heart froze. Play the sacred drums? In front of the whole village? But there was no choice. As his father lay shivering with fever, Obiora took the ancient Igwe Oma drum and walked to the village square. The rain lashed at his face, and lightning split the sky. But Obiora remembered the rhythms the forest had taught him. He began to play, not with his hands alone, but with his heart. He played the whispers of the wind, the song of the rain, and the roar of thunder. He played the rhythm of his own heartbeat and the pulse of the earth beneath his feet. Gradually, the storm began to calm. The winds gentled, the rain softened, and the thunder grew distant. The villagers emerged from their homes in amazement, watching as this young man they had laughed at commanded the elements with his drum. When the storm finally passed, the village erupted in celebration. The chief, Okonkwo, declared that Obiora had proven himself worthy of his heritage. Even the village diviner admitted that he had never seen the spirits respond so well to a drummer's call. But the story doesn't end there. Word of Obiora's talent spread to neighboring villages, and soon people were coming from far and wide to hear him play. Among them was a powerful chief from a distant village who brought his sick daughter, believing that the healing rhythms of the sacred drums might cure her mysterious illness. The chief's daughter, Adana, named after her grandmother, the same old woman who had helped Obiora, had not spoken or moved for 3 moons. The best healers in the land had failed to cure her. As a last resort, her father had brought her to Achina, having heard of the young drummer who could speak to the spirits. Obiora played for 3 days and 3 nights. He played all the rhythms he knew, the gentle rhythms that could make babies sleep, the strong rhythms that could make warriors brave, and the secret rhythms that could wake the spirits. On the 4th morning, just as the sun was rising, Adana opened her eyes and spoke her first words in 3 months. The grateful chief wanted to reward Obiora with bags of cowries and precious beads, but Obiora refused. Instead, he asked for something else: permission to marry the chief's daughter. The chief agreed, and so did Adana, who had fallen in love with the gentle drummer during her healing. But there was one more surprise in store. On the day of the wedding, the old woman who had helped Obiora at the stream appeared again. This time, she revealed herself as the guardian spirit of the sacred grove, who had taken human form to test Obiora's character. She blessed the union and gave the couple a gift: a new drum, carved from a branch of the oldest tree in the sacred grove. Obiora and Adana lived happily in Achina, where they raised their children and kept the tradition of the sacred drums alive. Obiora taught his children that the true power of the drums lay not in the strength of their hands, but in the kindness of their hearts and their willingness to listen to the voices of nature and the spirits. Years later, when Obiora had become an old man himself, young drummers would come from far and wide to learn from him. To each of them, he would tell this story, reminding them that sometimes the greatest wisdom comes not from doing things the way they have always been done, but from finding one's own path while respecting the old ways. The most important lesson he taught was that true mastery of any art comes not from pride or ambition, but from humility and the willingness to learn from unexpected teachers. Be they old women at streams, night birds in sacred groves, or the spirits themselves. In Achina today, they still tell this story when teaching young drummers. And sometimes, on very quiet nights, when the moon is new and the wind blows just right, people say you can still hear the echoes of Obiora's drums in the sacred grove, teaching new rhythms to those who have the patience to listen. The story of Obiora became more than just a tale about a drummer. It became a lesson about perseverance, about finding one's own path while respecting tradition, and about the power of kindness. The villagers of Achina learned that sometimes what appears to be a weakness can become a strength, and that the spirits favor those who show compassion as much as those who show skill. Even today, in the village of Achina, when children struggle to learn their parents' crafts, the elders remind them of Obiora, the drummer who learned to play not with his hands alone, but with his heart. They say that his story teaches us that there is more than one way to honor tradition, and that the spirits speak to each person differently. And so, the legacy of Obiora, the drummer who learned from the night, lives on in Achina. His story reminds us that sometimes the greatest wisdom comes not from following the beaten path, but from having the courage to walk in darkness until we find our own light. In the years that followed, Achina became known not just for its sacred drums, but for its wisdom in teaching young people to find their own ways of mastering the old arts. The village became a place where tradition and innovation danced together like the rhythms of Obiora's drums, sometimes following the old patterns, sometimes creating new ones, but always moving forward in harmony. And that, they say in Achina, is how one young man's struggle became a gift, not just to his village, but to all who hear his story and learn from it. For in every village, in every family, there are those who must find new ways to carry forward the old wisdom, just as Obiora did on those 7 nights in the sacred grove.
Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share.